G'day everyone, it's me, the anti-theocrat, back with another one. I might have background noise. It's Sunday morning, it's a bright and sunny one, the family are starting to move. I'm not going to say sorry about that, I'm just going to let you know it's there. I'm also not going to try and stop it more than it happens. I thought we'd cover a topic that comes out of the US, it's US-centric. It is US-centric ideas and concepts. And I understand, as many Americans, especially the sorts who write these articles, don't, that the world is not America, that we are very different. I'm an Australian, I am not an American. My world is not like theirs. In some ways that's good, and in some ways it's bad, but it's certainly not this. However, it takes 5 minutes for these narratives to carry throughout the world, from the US, amongst the special interest groups. So, shall we take a look? As part of my lockdown series, News 1, some US channel TV channel I'm guessing, reports how coronavirus affects black people. Civil rights groups call out radical health disparities. Well, I'd like to know what this has to do with civil rights. I'd really love to know what this has to do with civil rights. Why are civil rights groups calling this out? Why not concerned health groups, or doctors, or I don't know, dietitians? Who should be calling this out? Why is this about civil rights? Is there none of it about personal responsibilities? I don't know. I haven't read the article. Shall we move on? Before we do, however, this gave me a chuckle. Trump's COVID-19 response is proof that all lives matter was a lie. Apparently, all lives do not matter, according to whoever put that together. Apparently, all lives are just a piece of shit. That was a lie, that we all matter. I don't know what Donald Trump's response has taken from anyone, or not given to anyone. From my understanding, it was just being doled out across the nation. I didn't know there were racial differences being touted as part of this plan. So I find this to be less of a response to anything Donald Trump's doing, and I know I'm not an American, I'm not up on everything happening in the US, but I have a fair idea, because US politics affects us here in Australia. So I keep an eye on it. And for the record, I don't think I could sit and be friends with Donald Trump. I just get the feeling he and I would rub each other the wrong way pretty quickly. But I understand the man. I can see the good he's done. I can see the things that are questionable in what he's done. But I think, all in all, from an Australian perspective, he has been the best American president Australia has ever had. We haven't been called to any new war zones. We haven't had the US government impinging on our trade routes for American business. He's so centered on improving America for America that he's leaving alone our Korean trade routes and things. This to us makes a big difference. When an American president comes through and starts fucking with our stuff, yeah, when one doesn't, it makes a hell of a difference. So I like him because he's not hurting us. And that makes a difference. It really does. It really does. I cannot say how much it makes a difference. I know there is a massive amount of Trump derangement syndrome in this country, but he hasn't hurt our nation. He doesn't seem to have hurt his own. He doesn't seem to have hurt international relations, even though he has not been bowing and scraping to everybody. I think what he's done when he's said things to people that were not politically correct, were not towing a line that makes everyone happy, he showed America has a strong hand in negotiating its position. And I don't know if you care about that or not, but as an Australian, this matters. You are our number one ally, and you fuck with us all the time. And our number one ally is currently not fucking with us, and I like that. I have to get back to this article. I just had to lay it on the line. My position on the US, this Trump thing, and That way you all know where I stand. How can a virus affect black people? Civil rights groups call out radical health disparities. Again, civil rights groups. Why? Why? Disparities black people face when dealing with coronavirus could affect everything from voting to being incarcerated to socioeconomic status and more. And it's not going to do that to everyone else. I'm locked in. I ain't of dark texture, that's for sure. My family is locked in and we are mixed race. This isn't affecting us at all, is that the story? With the coronavirus disease, it's a virus, not a disease, 2019, COVID-19, reached pandemic proportions. The radical justice organisation Colour of Change, oh good, a radical justice organisation, has released a statement, a well-studied and documented statement, highlighting the disparities black people face when dealing with the virus. Alright, right away, I don't give a flying fuck, because all you've got is a radical group making a statement. You've got no studies, you've got no evidence, you've got a whole range of things that are not there that would make this matter. President of Colour of Change, and it has been scrubbed through, so he's not anymore, I don't know. Maybe it's just a formatting problem with the page. Rashad Robinson explained, I don't know his stupid invented names, this pandemic has revealed a terrifying reality. Many Americans don't even know if they are affected with COVID-19 because they are scared to go to the hospital and receive free tests and treatment that may saddle them with debt that could take years to pay off. Really? How much is being charged for these tests? Because I know this whole story is old enough that I've heard this many a time, the testing's not being charged for. It's just categorically wrong. And if you're afraid of that, then maybe you should have checked. Maybe you should have called in and said, hey, this testing, does it cost anything? After years of Republicans, Big Pharma, and major corporations, all the things that vested interests might not like, the Democrats did nothing. Little businesses like mine did nothing. We were all just, we weren't there to make a profit so we can actually create a living for ourselves or anything. No. It really gives me the shits when people, major corporations. Look, your supermarket is part of a major corporation group. Whether or not it's an independent, its supply routes often come through corporate-owned or corporate-run locations or suppliers or whatever. The people who do the manufacturing of the products you eat, and especially, I know where this is going, the products these people eat, these are large corporations feeding you. Why are you so against them? Fighting against paid sick leave and legislation and Medicare, and all we are left with is a crisis where disproportionately black, low-wage workers are continuing to support the public without the health insurance or paid time off that would make us safer. Now, I know that black people are a minority in the US. I know that they have their own services and media. I know that white people are the majority, and that majority has probably as many, if not more, low-wage workers in it. But I do understand that as a percentage, it is possible, it is even stated many places, black people do fall into that category more. And I can only ask why. Why do you allow yourself to be in this position? Does Oprah Winfrey not support your community by opening businesses and starting things in your community? And I just picked on her because she's the first millionaire that I could think of. But why? Why is this something that you can't get over that I, as a poor white person, am managing to survive nicely in? I'm so low income. I stand one ahead of people on benefits. And even then, I could apply for benefits. I am that low on the earning scale. So I don't apply for benefits because I prefer not to. I prefer my family to have what it earns and not have to put up with the shit the government puts you through to get benefits. So you understand, I'm in that position, and yet I'm not in this position that you're trying to put forward. According to the Bureau of Labour Statistics, about 29% of the workforce was able to work from home. 90% of higher wage workers received paid sick leave compared to lower income workers, according to BLS. Just 31% of workers with salaries in the bottom 10% were allowed paid sick leave. Now, that also doesn't say what races they represent, what skin colours they represent. Not at all. It does not say that. Now, I understand. I have a partner who's out of work and I have a partner who is on a salary. So we're surviving nicely through this, but we were doing a little bit better. And it was the first time in our lives we've done that well. So it's not nice to have that going away again. Among the poor working, black workers will witness an even greater impact. That's not stated in this Bureau of Labour Statistics statement. So I'd like to know where you got that from. According to BLS, didn't we just work out that they didn't mention that? Black and Hispanic workers are more than twice as likely, now you get to it, to receive poverty level wages compared to their white counterparts. And why is that? Why? I was raised in a lower middle class family that when I was 15-year-old became a poor family through my father having a motorcycle accident. My goal in life never stopped being trying to lift myself out of the gutter and be better than I was, than my status in life in my teens was preparing me for. I always aimed higher. I travelled around a country the size of the US, ending up on the other side of it to finish an apprenticeship that I got retrenched from because I wanted to improve my situation. Why is it that black people are in this position? Are they not looking for ways out? I mean, is it because all the single mothers and single fathers? Because that seems to be a problem. About 8% of Hispanic workers earn wages below the poverty level compared to 4% of the white workforce. Alright, so twice as many. But still a comparable number. Black women workers suffer the most, with 10% classified as working poor compared to 3.5% of white men. Okay, you just compared black women and white men. I don't know why you made that disparity, because if you look at the numbers of women, you might find that single mothers bring that number quite up if you were to look at white women. And I just know that if you'd kept that in women tend to work part-time jobs more, they tend to work casual more often. And, like I say, the single mothers make a difference. And we know that the black community has a problem with single parenting. Yes, I'm calling it a problem. I don't give a shit. Look, I do everything I can to hold my family together. Everything I can. I work to keep my relationships healthy. And, okay, that's not always possible. But the number of relationships that apparently go sour in the black communities of America, it's just ridiculous. In fact, we have similar here amongst certain communities. And, geez, did nobody tell you how to interact with people? Did you never take the time to learn how to bend and flex a little bit, to give to other people, to give them something that they want? And not only that, but something they want to appreciate, that they will give back. In fact, Why weren't they taught to give something? God, bloody hell. Relationships give me the shit these days. I grew up in the era where relationships were starting to be a thing of the past. And I managed to hold together mine. I've been in my initial relationship for 27 years or something. And it's not going away anytime soon. I don't understand why people don't try to put in the effort. Why they're having kids before they've established whether or not they're compatible. Doesn't matter. Moving on. There's a lot of occupational segregation in this country, said Elise Gould, senior economist for EPI, according to Yahoo Finance. So when we think of those low-wage workers, they are more likely to be women, black and Hispanic workers. This could hit some communities more than others. Okay, yes, I actually know this set of statistics exists, but again I ask, why? Why? Why are black and Hispanic workers not able to lift themselves out of the gutter? What are they not doing, or what are they doing that puts them in this position? I remind everyone that this was civil rights groups calling this out. Is it a civil rights issue that you can't get yourself out of the gutter? Is it? Robinson called out some of the richest names in the country when pointing to the inequality black and brown people face and how an economic impact by the coronavirus could affect them. Billionaires like Jeff Soros, Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates. What do they have to do with the poor end of town? I never look to those people for my examples of how I'm supposed to live. They are in positions that I can't manage to. I'm not a software engineer, okay? Let's put it there to start with. At least two of these people had some idea of setting up software. I'm just not that person. Everything I need exists. Everything I need exists to a point where I'm not a high-end user. I can use what I've got. I'm using a free software at the moment to record this show. Yes, who made billions from Americans have the means to provide testing for the entire country several times over, he said. They probably do, but is it their business? And again, is the testing costing money? As we face down a potential recession, we also must ensure that our government bails out working people and consumers who will feel the brunt of this recession, instead of executives and industries who've been hoarding their profits since Trump's tax cuts took effect. Have they? See, I find this very often. A lot of people don't understand the full scope of what trickle-down economics means. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of trickle-down economics. I do believe that there should be social support barriers. And I live in a country that has those things. So I have no... And our leaders of industry don't earn anything like what the Americans do. They have to go to America to do that. Welcome to our media network, huh? But anyway, do these people hoard their money? Or are they investing it? Do they have it tied up in investments, tax dodgers, and a whole lot of other things that provide people work? That provide people a living? Do they just have it tied up in the stock market? Because the stock market is an investment body that invests in people's lives. It invests in buying farmers' crops. It invests in the businesses that transport and manufacture goods from those products. You understand, these people don't hang on to their money. They don't put it in a bank account like we poor people do. Their money is out there doing things for them. They are making so much money because they hold on to whatever they need to live. They have a stash aside that they can ready cash they can get their hands on, but a large part of their fortunes is working somewhere, making them more money. They do not rely on the bank to give them a bottom end figure of interest which you'll never earn because you never have enough money in the bank to make interest. Okay, I am that person. I know what it is to be that person who makes at best 2 cents interest a year. These people are not doing that. You do not understand trickle-down economics. And while I'm not the biggest supporter of it, you are ignorant of it. Please do not talk about it until you educate yourself. So far, Donald Trump has unveiled a payroll tax cut proposal through the election and into the end of the year, giving relief to some working Americans. Well, that's nice. See, that's not just bailouts for the top end, is it? On Wednesday, Democrats also released the Family First Coronavirus Response Bill, which would provide paid sick leave, food assistance, extra funds for unemployed insurance benefit and for unemployment insurance benefits. Sorry, we don't have this crap in Australia. So yeah, again, this doesn't sound like he's just paid out the top end. And when you think about the number of people at our end of the scale, at the middle to bottom end of the scale, there might be more money tied up in what they're giving to us than what they're giving to the top end, because there are more of us needing it. Although such measures are needed, Robinson from A Colour of Change, and again, someone I don't give a fuck about, is demanding more. Well, of course he is. That's what he does. That's what the article started out with. He's an activist with an agenda. When we return to normal, the normal for most people will be economic hell. No, it won't. Do you know how opened up the job market will be? Do you know how many people probably won't be going back to jobs that they had because they were shit at them, and other people will have an opportunity to get those jobs? It's not always easy to get rid of people once you have them in jobs. And this is a perfect time for people to make the most. Not only that, how many people are dying? And I know this is a really bad way to look at this, but I'm going to, because sometimes the bad ways are the ways we have to. But people at the top end are dying. This disease was largely a jet set disease until it hit these tight-knit communities. It started out as a jet set. It was the people who had a passport and could afford to pick up and just leave China that carried it worldwide. They then went to Hollywood and their political circles worldwide, and they transferred it to them. And it was the people on cruise ships picking it up in their little well-to-do hideaways all over the world, their little tourist resorts all over the world, where the jet set are hanging out. So this was a jet setter's disease to start out with. They spread it worldwide by being able to jet themselves all over the world. Those people are leaving opportunities open for new people to rise to the top. And that means more people at the bottom finding opportunities. And maybe some of those people who rise to the top are going to be ones who, and it might just be that these people find themselves thinking, I'm never going back to work after this, I'm going to live my life and enjoy it because I came so close. Whatever it is, there will be opportunities after this disease. It will not shut down the world inevitably forever and ever. No, it just won't. I like to eat. I like to have things. I want the world to have industry and business and be able to provide. In fact, I want my own business to be ongoing so that people buy things from me. So no, I'm not going to shut down just because we've had a bit of a disease. I haven't shut down yet. Anyway, black people are amongst the most... hang on, where are we? Any restrictions on travel or public gatherings must include provisions. I think I've missed some, but who gives a shit? This is dull and boring. I'm really wishing I hadn't started it. Provisions for the exception that will ensure that voters, particularly off-targeted black voters, voters reliant on public transport and other marginalised voters are not disenfranchised. Well, I agree. I think there should be efforts made to ensure people are allowed to vote. But I understand fully why the government doesn't particularly want to go to postal voting in the US. In fact, there's been, look, postal voting fraud is a thing here in Australia too. It has been done here as well. It's been done in the UK fairly recently. It's not new. I understand why he might not want to turn the entire election over to a postal vote. I think, however, if we could invent some sort of electronic voting system that could be in the home, welcome to the internet, admittedly, security would be a thing. But if we could, I don't know, someone walks around the neighbourhoods carrying, in a bloody suit, carrying, you know, a space suit, carrying a bloody pad that everyone just hits yes or no or whatever in the fuck it is you're supposed to vote. I don't know what the solution is, but I'm pretty sure that one could be found and one does need to be found. I agree. Now, I am someone who has always voted. I live in a country where voting is actually compulsory. You get a fine for not voting. There was a loophole where people didn't enroll to vote, but that's no longer a thing. You now are required to enroll to vote. So, you know, I have to vote, but I take pride in the fact that I do vote. So I wouldn't like to be locked out of my voting rights. In addition to voting measures, Robinson also demanded the coronavirus doesn't negatively impact the 2020 census, where black people are amongst the most uncounted population in the census, and an undercount will lead to communities not getting the funding and representation they need or deserve for the next 10 years. Again, is this a civil rights issue, or is this a problem of black people not reporting? Because when the census comes here, we fill it out. And our census got a little bit personal recently, so there were bits I didn't fill out. There were bits like put my name on it that I did not fill out. And I don't care if I don't get counted for that, but I think our census has no responsibility to know my individual name. But I fill it out. I fill it out for everyone in the household. I leave out their names. It's that simple. He suggested the Census Bureau make clear and impactful contingency plans, since the coronavirus will likely hinder the efforts of census workers going door to door to ensure participation. Do your census workers do that? Our census workers barely come and pick up the bloody census, the last couple. But they just drop it at our door and we're expected to fill it out. I didn't know your census workers came in and actually helped you to fill out the form. Do you people not have educations? Can't you read? I didn't think the census was that hard. It's not a finals exam or something. Finally, Robinson, who's a fuckwit, and I'm just saying this because of who he works for. I don't know the man personally. Maybe he's a nice dude, but he's a fuckwit. Called for action to make sure the coronavirus doesn't affect the health of incarcerated individuals. That would be nice. I think there would be a call for that to be the case. I don't think when you've got people locked up, you want them getting sick in the institutions you've got them locked up in. I don't know why this is a special call for this guy and what he represents. I wouldn't want anyone in these institutions getting sick from this, because it would be an easy place for people who are locked in close confines to spread. I just don't want that. Regardless what you're in there for, nobody put you in there to die of coronavirus. You're there to serve a term. Hopefully you're there to reform, and you're not there to die of coronavirus. He added, I'm just going to skip chunks at the moment. I'm almost at the end anyway. I don't know if I'm skipping chunks or not at this point. This is so fucking dull. He added, similarly, state and local officials should also be all available powers to immediately release incarcerated people who are particularly vulnerable to illness, such as elderly and pregnant women. So they can move to lower risk environments, and anyone who tests positive for COVID-19 inside a jail or prison should be released and moved to receive adequate care in a hospital. Well, look, some of that sounds good on the surface. I just don't know how you go about it. And how many of those people would be high risk if you took them out of the places they're incarcerated in? So I think there have to be well-considered plans around these things. I don't think we can just say, let them out, take them to a hospital. Oh, don't worry, he's a mass murderer who just went around strangling people and managed to do it for 6 hours before we got him and pinned him down. Who cares? Okay, so Robinson's someone I don't care about. I don't see how this is about civil rights. I just don't, right? This is civil rights groups calling out the racial disparities. Well, nobody's talked about them. Nobody has actually... This entire article got through without mentioning the disparities. What are they? Why are they there? Okay, let me put this forward. Bad diet. If for some reason I'm poor and have never been able to afford... I've never been poor enough to afford takeaway all the time. I've never been poor enough to afford to live on junk food. I have lived on stupid things like rice and lemon juice in my youth, but I have never been poor enough to afford to live on junk food. I do not understand this argument that poor people eat more junk food. There might be a reason why you are poor. It might be to do with junk food. Okay? Just saying that. Just putting it out there. Okay, so the health disparities in these communities, the only one mentioned was not willing to go to hospitals because they might have to pay for something. That's not an issue. Get in touch with the medical professionals, find out what you've got to do. I believe if you end up in treatment, then it can cost you. But I don't know, there might be a way out of that as well. I know in this country there's no such problem. So, as I said, this is a US-centric article, but it is the sort of shit that would spread over here, and our communities, our minority communities over here, would jump on board and say, yeah, us too. I'm sorry, but if all you can afford to do is eat junk food, you're probably richer than I am to start off with. Alright, that's it. I'm done. I'm getting out of this one. I really hated the fact that this was apparently civil rights groups calling out for about these disparities. Is no personal responsibility out there anymore? Does nobody raise their children to be better, or to think that you are meant to achieve more out of your life than being knocked up with 6 kids, a single mother, and working at McDonald's behind the counter? Does nobody tell people this anymore? It's not a civil rights issue. If you can't lift yourself out of the gutter, it is up to you. And I know there are always going to be people at the bottom, and people are needed at the bottom. And maybe there should be... I mean, we've got minimum wage in this country, and I don't know that it's the perfect plan, but maybe there should be something. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't work, but whatever it is that you need to get yourself out of that position, you're meant to do it. You are. You're meant to do it for yourself, for your kids. Okay. I'm done. I'm getting out of here. I may not even fucking post this one because it's just so bloody dull. It was such a nothing article. I've been the anti-theocrat. I hate this fucking racist shit that we get to hear. all the time, out of America largely, because you have certainly got different sorts of race barriers to what everyone else has. I mean, I've lived in China. Do you think as a tall white fella I don't get some racism? Shit, I've lived in Aboriginal Australia. Do you think as a tall white fella I don't get some racism? You don't use that as a measure for your own life. You pull yourself up by your bootstrings, you get your ass into gear, and you work out what it takes to be more than the shit people shovel at you. Alright, I've been the anti-theocrat. It's been another one. I'm going to fuck off now. May gods remain fictional. I'll see you in the next one. Ah, bugger. Press the right fucking button, you dickhead.